Today, we're talking bucket list roller coasters.
But not just for us. We'll absolutely talk about that, but we also asked our Patreon followers what their top rides are that they want to get in around the world, and we're going to list them off. So, right now, what do you think your top bucket list coaster is?
I haven't been to Japan, if you guys didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, did not know
But you
that.
have.
I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am very excited to ride Hakuge. I've also been dying to do Ejinaika. That would include Dinoconda as well. And that, you know what, that was a very popular choice. So there are a lot of coasters over there that pretty much all of us can agree that, you know, we really want to get out there and ride them, except you.
Well, no, hey, I mean, those of you guys that watch my top 25, I listed Ejinaika as my number one. So Dinoconda is that other attraction that's like far off, that's like, oh, it's just out of reach, but I really want to get on it one day. It's the other S&S Fourth Dimension coaster. And so if you love Ejinaika, then surely you'll love Dinoconda.
Yeah, another one I have on my list that is another one that I feel like a good amount of people have done, but I haven't. That is Karnan.
Okay.
At Hansa Park. And you know what? I'm not looking at it like, oh my gosh, this is even like the best roller coaster ever. I just have avoided spoilers for so long, and I just don't want to have to keep doing it anymore. I'm really tired of every time we talk about Karnan, I have to go stand outside.
That's funny.
I don't want to do it anymore. So
I think there's something to be said, though, about big bucket list rides for you being rides that aren't necessarily like, you know, a number one or anything, but it's an attraction that has like, you know, a novelty or something that is just like very unique. So like a big bucket list ride for me is Leap the Dips, because I want to ride the world's oldest roller coaster.
That's one that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
That we're weird that we haven't done.
Okay, well, here's a sentimental one for me. I want to ride Superman at Hopi Hari in Brazil because it used to operate at King's Dominion. It was Schwarzkopf shuttle loop. I've literally done this exact ride before, but knowing that this ride from Brazil used to operate at, you know, the place I grew up going to, I don't know, like I want to ride it. Like that'd be really cool.
I think that's very, very fair. Another one that I have on here is Roaring Timbers. That I think that one is one of the more elusive credits
that's
out there.
On an island in Vietnam.
Yes.
It looks really, really good.
And you know what? Even if the coaster's just fine and it's not like the best ever, it is like a thing of me just wanting to get to that obscure location.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not like an easy
No, you
trip.
can't fly there. I think you have to take a boat, or maybe there's like a sky tram or something. But I don't know. It's like, it's far off there.
Yeah, it's like no joke to get there. So I'm like, it's sort of like I want to accomplish getting there.
Sure.
More than anything.
Yeah, you know, another big bucket list ride for me is Gravity Max over in Taiwan, because I want to ride the original tilt coaster, because we know that Vekoma is coming out with some next-gen tilt coasters. But I really want to ride the original. I want to know what that's like. I mean,
I do too.
I have a general idea of what it probably feels like, but I don't know. I just think that'd be really, really cool.
Staying in that area of the world, I have T-Express on my list.
Yep. That's another one for me. Yep.
If you didn't already know, I am an El Toro lover. So I want to eventually do all of the Intamin prefabs.
Yeah.
But I've heard that this one is like the next best after.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I gotta shout out the two big GCIs in China with Wood Coaster and Python and Bamboo Forest.
Wood Coaster was a somewhat popular choice amongst our Patreon people. We'll get to all their answers in a second, but that one was popular, and it was funny because I didn't even think about it at first.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, you guys are onto something.
It's because it's an obscure location. Like some of those rides that are just like out of reach, that it's just something that you hear about, you know, and then to be able to go there and experience it is probably just a wild feeling.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, before we go into the ones for our Patreon people, I'm going to cite one more. And this one is for a friend of mine who is just the biggest corgi nut in the world. I want to, in her honor, I want to ride the one coaster in, I think, China. The ride vehicle is a corgi.
That's pretty incredible.
Again, a novelty thing. Like, it's literally a wacky worm, but it's a corgi instead of a worm.
That's fantastic.
I know, I really want to do it. I mean, we already conquered the dog fart coaster, so now I just want the regular...
That's a bucket list ride for a lot of people, the dog fart coaster.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. It's a meme.
Exactly.
I'm all about the meme rides. That's why I really want to ride Wilde-Hilde at Schwaben Park. And I was so happy when I got on that. I was like, yeah, the chicken coaster.
If that's not on your list, it should be. So, without further ado, let's talk about what our Patreon members said, because there's a lot of really good answers on here.
Yeah, one of the top ones was Fly at Phantasialand, and I completely understand that. I mean, it's the next-gen Vekoma flying coaster.
Well, it's the only one, too.
Yeah, and it's just completely immersed in this environment. Phantasialand just went above and beyond with. I know Terran was also a popular response. I mean, that park in general, and I feel like especially if you don't live in Europe. You're like, I have to get to Fantasialand to
How often do
experience
you
this.
see a coaster that is that well themed?
Yeah,
Like a
in
high
the US,
thrill one, like a high thrill coaster.
Yeah, rarely ever.
Exactly.
So yeah, I completely understand that. I mean, I was ecstatic. I was through the moon when I got to experience those.
Next one on the list is one that I feel like I take a tiny little ounce of credit for, because while this ride was already popular, I feel like our on-ride videos and like all of our coverage of it has like taken it to like a next level of like people wanting to ride to Happiness.
Yeah. I mean, because we had heard that it was good, but after experiencing it, I feel like we just never shut up about it. So
Well, that was probably the most popular answer, which again, like the people who are answering this clearly watch the channel, so
Yeah.
they probably have seen all of our coverage of Ride to Happiness, and they're like, all right, yeah, we got to see what all the hubbub is about. And even friends of ours, who you know, they know us in real life and they hear us babbling on about it all the time.
they're like,
so good.
which Europe parks are you going to go to? It's like, well, Fantasialand is usually like the top choice, but a lot of people then said after that Plopsaland, which is like crazy that people would prioritize that over like Portaventura or Europa Park, you know, which like are way better parks, but they want to ride to Happiness.
And you know what? I don't blame you.
No, I don't blame them at all. Two rides that were popular mentions, I feel like we have to shout out because they aren't open yet, but I guarantee you once they do open, everyone's going to want to go ride them. And that's Hyperia at Thorpe Park, and then Falcon's Flight at Six Flags Qiddiya. I mean, world's tallest, world's fastest, world's longest roller coaster. Yeah, that's going to be a top choice for a lot of people.
It's another one that's in like a less easy to get to location.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like this elusive thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of how people were like really into DC rivals for a long time, because like getting to Australia, like no matter where you live, is kind of an ordeal.
Well, and I feel like now that Hyperia is about to open at Thorpe Park, it's like a little bit more feasible to ride a mock hypercoaster, because DC Rivals is so far away for a lot of people that, you know, getting to London, okay, that's a little bit easier.
Yeah, definitely easier. So next one on the list was said multiple times and definitely is on our list.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sore subject at the moment. Formula Rossa, Ferrari World.
If you didn't already know, we were just on a pretty long trip to the United Arab Emirates, and that was not a credit we acquired.
Nope. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's still closed at the moment, so yeah, we're a little salty about that one.
But that's another, like, currently that is the world's fastest roller coaster, and if you're a fan of launches, you're obviously gonna like it.
Two rides that we have pretty close to home that is probably in everyone's like top 5 who's experienced it are the two huge Florida thrill rides, aka Iron Gwazi and Velocicoaster.
Yeah, that's like the 1-2 punch. Anyone who's like a thrill seeker as far as roller coasters wants to come do those rides, and that I would say was probably right after Ride to Happiness was probably the most common.
Sure,
was one of the two or both.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that so many people want to take a trip to Florida. Sometimes every year or every couple months.
Well, and a handful of the people who said it were literally like, we will be there in X amount of days, weeks, or months.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to go ride it soon. Like, everyone's planning trips to come and do these rides. And like,
everyone has ever since they opened.
I get it. I 100% get it. If I hadn't done them yet, I would be like, get me there now.
Yeah. Another similar 1-2 punch, this time in the same park, is the Energylandia duo, aka Zadra and Hyperion.
Yeah.
That is just... that makes everyone want to visit Energylandia. Like, that park just wouldn't be the same without those two.
Well, it's another RMC Intamin
Yeah.
combo. I mean, another one that was said on here a lot was Steel Vengeance. Weirdly enough, I didn't see anyone say Maverick, but that's another, RMC Intamin
Oh, sure.
1-2 punch.
Yeah.
It's a very popular and very satisfying combination.
Yeah. Well, they work really well together. I mean,
really
there's a reason that, like, that every time a park has an Intamin and RMC, everyone's just like, that park is somehow then launched into another level of, like, we have to get there.
Absolutely. Another one on the list was new to me only just 2 years ago, and it was your number 1 at one point.
Yep.
And that's Fury 325.
Sure. I mean, there's a reason why this ride is, like, for a lot of people, considered the best roller coaster on the planet. In my opinion, the best B&M ever built. It's currently the tallest roller coaster in the world with a lift hill.
Cool.
I mean, the ride is enormous, and it is just, like, fantastic. Every second of that ride was just, like, so beautifully done.
And it's such like a centerpiece of like the coaster enthusiast identity is having an opinion about Fury 325. So I feel like every coaster enthusiast that hasn't done it yet, it's like, I gotta get that so I can like talk about it.
Yeah.
With everybody.
This one made me laugh because it is a bucket list ride, but for weird reasons. Dragon Mountain at Marineland.
So I'm gonna give context here. When we posted the discussion question on Patreon, that's when everyone thought Marineland was closing for good.
Yeah, now we know that they're staying open, which means this is something that like you can go experience this summer if you want to. It is an Arrow custom looper. I kind of liken it to the Beast of how drawn out it is. Like it just keeps going and has these weird helices. It's probably the strangest Arrow ever built.
The next one on the list is a very divisive roller coaster that some would consider to be the best in the UK, and some were like, this is terrible. That's the Smiler.
It can run a little rough, but it is incredible. I mean,
I think it's great.
This is a bucket list ride for obvious reasons. It has the most inversions on any roller coaster in the world.
That's the thing is like a lot of these have some kind of like thing about them, right? Where they have some kind of record or some kind of identifiable thing, like most inversions, highest speed.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said about
yeah.
riding something and then knowing that there's no other roller coaster on the planet that can replicate that kind of experience.
Yes. Like another one that was mentioned by people was King to Ka, which
Sure.
I mean, right now is the tallest roller coaster in the world.
Yeah, there's no other roller coaster on the planet that goes higher up than when you're at the top of King to Ka, looking straight down at the ground. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think about that every time I ride it. I'm at the top and I'm like, huh. Yeah. Here's a ride that we traveled across the world to do, and for years, ever since this ride opened, this was towards the top of my bucket list. And it actually is the ride that inspired a whole trip that we did, and that's Taiga at Lennonmaki.
Yeah, that was an awesome ride. And
Yeah,
it is
that did not disappoint.
No, it didn't. And it's another one that's kind of like in a tough location.
It is a tough location.
Like,
it's
really
Finland. You have to go all the way to Finland for it.
Yeah.
I mean, once you fly into Helsinki, it's easy to access, but like, man, that was a ride that I was like, I have to find a way to get here at some point. And I was like, I remember sitting around just being like, I'm like itching to ride Taiga. I'm like flights.
So the next one is one that I feel that a lot of Americans have done, and a lot of people have put this as their number one. However, the people who said this as being one of their number one bucket list coasters are all from other countries.
Yeah.
And that's the Voyage, because it is in not at all a convenient location if you are flying into the US.
Yeah, well, if you're visiting from another country and you're wanting to do theme parks, there's some popular routes that people like to do. You know, you have like the East Coast, you have the Southern California stretch, you have the Florida stretch. And then there's Holiday World, which is in the middle of southern Indiana, kind of far away from everything. Your closest big city is Louisville, which, if you're visiting from another country, is not a popular stop.
Yeah,
you know?
most people aren't like, I gotta get myself to Kentucky Kingdom.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why like a lot of people, when they want, if they want to do Cedar Point, they'll combine it with Kings Island, and then they're like, okay, I'm willing to go a little bit further, aka an extra 3 hours to go ride the Voyage from Kings Island.
You know, a lot of people specifically want to ride it when it's dark and no trims, which only happens once a year.
Yep.
So if you're international and you want to do that, like, you have one very specific window that you can do it.
Yep.
And if you can't make that, like, that's really your only chance. That one's a really interesting one because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to China for one more ride. I mean, there's honestly like so many rides there that we could talk about, so many incredible looking attractions, but there is a B&M flying coaster there that just looks bonkers, and that's Starry Sky Ripper. It's like a terrain coaster, it has some really unconventional moments. I know that's a ride that I absolutely hope to get on one day. China has some crazy looking rides, and that's towards the top of the list.
This one I understand to some extent, but also I don't. Millennium Force.
Well, you have to think, this was like the ride 20 years ago. You know?
Yes.
I mean,
That's the part I don't understand. It's not 20 years ago.
It's
today.
So you're saying that this is still a bucket list ride for people?
Yes, it was, someone mentioned it.
But I think the thing is that because this ride was so famous, it is so well known. I mean, think about how many like bits on Travel Channel were done about Millennium Force. Like how many old videos are out there. I mean, this ride is legendary, even though people might be aware that this is not the greatest ride in the world anymore. It absolutely is one of those rides that just like has stood the test of time. It's something that you have to go experience one day just to know what it was like.
But if I'm seeking out like an intimate giga coaster, like I'm going to I-305, and someone did mention I-305. And like if I was you know, from somewhere where I hadn't done either of them, like, if I had to pick one, I'm going I-305.
Sure, yeah.
Any day.
Yeah, I mean, but you could also be like, well, Millennium Forest, same park as Steel Vengeance, Maverick. I mean, that's why people go to Cedar Point. It's the place that, if you want to ride the best roller coasters in the world, I mean, you can pick one park, people are going to go Cedar Point.
Speaking of that, I want to shout out, because we didn't do names for this one, but I'm going to shout out one person specifically. And that is the wonderful Harrison Mills. He's from Australia, and he had a similar mindset where he flew from Australia to do Cedar Point. The poor guy gets there, and Steel Vengeance did not open, and Maverick did not open. Every time we talk about it, I like feel something deep inside me that is so sad for him.
Yeah.
But he'll be back. I know that. But like, I can't imagine going to that park and missing something. I guess that's kind of akin to us going.
We
like,
literally went to Abu Dhabi and didn't ride Formula Rosa. A lot of people are feeling that exact same way about us right now.
I know. Oh my gosh. But he's doing okay. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing okay.
Life moves on. Life moves on. Let us know down in the comments below, what are your bucket list roller coasters that you want to ride? Obviously, there are so many around the world, so there's tons that we did not account for.
Absolutely. And we do these kind of discussions all the time on our Patreon. A lot of them are just for fun, but some of them will get put into videos. So if you want to talk with other coaster enthusiasts, including us, about your opinions about different things, check out patreon.com/coasterstudios. You literally can be at the lowest level tier. It's $2 a month, and you can partake in these discussions. And it goes on from there, and there's so much extra content on there. Like it's like a whole second Coaster Studios over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.